Well, Zelensky had a message for German people today in that speech to Parliament. Here's a little of what he said.
You know this from your own experience, and that's why you can understand us Ukrainians. You can understand why we are fighting so hard against Russia's attempts to divide us, to divide Ukraine. Why we are doing absolutely everything to prevent a war between parts of our country.
And joining me now is Ketavan Gorjestani, our international affairs editor. And Ketavan, Zelensky speaking there at the German parliament as the Ukraine Recovery Conference, also in Berlin, kicks off today. Tell us a bit about that.
Well, this conference is really aimed at helping Ukraine rebuild from the destruction caused by Russia's invasion. And it is the beginning of a very important week for support to Ukraine in the broad sense. This comes before the G7 and, of course, that global peace summit in Switzerland at the end of this week. But this is not just about politics or diplomacy. This is bringing together about 2,000 guests from politics, of course, but also from the world of business as well as civil society. And the reason for that is that the German development minister putting it well, saying that the task of supporting Ukraine's recovery is too big to be tackled by governments alone. The goal here is to help not only with aid from governments, but also with investments. And this comes, of course, as the Ukrainian president himself has said that half of the country's electrical and energy generating capacity has been destroyed in the war, and that estimate by the World Bank that it will take about $500 billion over the next decade to help rebuild Ukraine. The Recovery Conference is, of course, focused on rebuilding, but it is also an opportunity, again, to call for more support for Ukraine. And that's what the German Chancellor, Olaf Scholz, did. He also insisted on the need of sending more weapons, especially more air defenses to the Ukrainians, saying the best kind of reconstruction effort is one that doesn't have to happen at all, meaning if it doesn't get destroyed, it doesn't need to be rebuilt. And this coming, of course, we've been talking about it on France 24 over and over again, this renewed and insistent strikes by the Russians on Ukraine, especially on the energy grid that has forced the officials to put out some national blackouts in Ukraine. So the situation is very difficult. And of course, the Ukrainians are looking ahead to the winter that will come, thinking about rebuilding or repairing at least what can be repaired right now. So for Zelensky, there are two things. There's the short-term aid to help repair what can be repaired right now. And there is the long-term rebuilding that will need investments. And he said it himself. We're not asking for grants. We're asking for you to invest in the future of Ukraine.
And any investments like that, Ketavan, require trust, but it has to be said, there is quite a bit of instability when it comes to those who are in charge of reconstruction now in Ukraine.
Absolutely. Just yesterday, Mustafa Naim, he's the director of the Agency for the Restoration of Ukraine, and he announced his resignation. So just ahead of this conference, and in his resignation letter that was posted on social media, he said he cited systemic obstacles and the fact that his agency was facing constant confrontation, resistance, and artificial obstacles. Now, he did not allege any direct or outright corruption, but his claims do feed into some of the concerns within the allies in the West, especially in the United States, concerns about how all the money that is being sent to Ukraine is actually being used. And the problem is that he's not the only one who has left. He's the second top official involved in reconstruction to leave. Last month, it was Alexander Kubrakov, who was the Minister of Infrastructure. He was fired. He has yet to be replaced. And so that means that the two top officials involved in infrastructure and reconstruction are not attending the recovery conference. And Kubrakov and Naim were both seen as anti-corruption activist with close ties with the Western allies, good working relationship with them. And that is something that could come as a concern. I'll end with this quote by Naim in his resignation letter. He said, "The biggest asset we have is trust. And at this moment, those who tried to make the system transparent and accountable had to leave."
All right. Thank you very much, Ketavan Gorjestani, for us there.